It's time to save, New Jersey. New Jersey's Clean Energy Program is your guide to rebates and incentives that can save hundreds, even thousands of dollars for businesses and residents throughout the state by making smarter energy choices. Start today with an energy assessment. We're lighting the way to a clean energy future. Join in at njcleanenergy.com or call 866-NJ.
My name's Lauren Madden, and I am a faculty member at the College of New Jersey. I coordinate the environmental sustainability education 5-course minor and 4-course graduate certificate. I also teach science teaching methods and general instructional methods for elementary school teachers. I'm a science person, so my world of arts integration has started growing over the last few years. As you can see, science is where I live. But a few years ago, we started hearing a lot about STEAM. STEAM became a really popular buzzword in education and strategy a lot of folks were using. Anybody know what STEAM is? Want to share with the group?
Science, technology, environment,
engineering,
and math.
Art and math, that's right. So it's taking STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and putting the arts in there. Here's what happens. A lot of times what we see is the end of a science lesson, somebody has the kids draw a picture or write a rap, and we call that arts integration. When I talk to my arts colleagues in music, in art, in theater, in poetry, nothing makes them cringe more than saying drawing a picture at the end of the lesson is arts integration. So over the last few years, I've been working with some colleagues, and we developed a model, the 4C model for arts integrated environmental ed. So arts integration doesn't have to serve all 4 purposes, but the 4 purposes that we've found that help arts make meaning with what we're doing is when the arts explain content, when they communicate things about an issue, when they allow students to showcase their creative thinking, and then finally when they build community. So to be an arts integrated environmental ed, they don't have to do all 4, but they have to do at least one of these. So I'm going to keep this out here for later in case anybody wants a chance to take a look at it. I have my email address where I can send you the whole paper. And my Twitter handle, I'll be tweeting about this later today. So I want to share a few examples of some good arts integrated EE. And I always like to start with poetry. I love Wendell Berry. Anybody see the documentary recently about him? So he's basically a farmer and poet who has made a commitment to go back to the simple life. And I'm going to read a poem out loud, and maybe we can think about how this fits into that model. So this is called "The Mad Farmer Shuts Himself Inside His Silo to Sing Away the Storm." Because the silo is round, each note is round. Each note, eternity in a nutshell. And knowing this mad farmer knows also that his song can never be lost, never exhausted, never indefinitely contained, that the notes will circle and circle until the storm relents, until the door left open permits them freedom. And they will go inevitable as a seed to the 4 great corners of the universe, there to put themselves together over and over, becoming over and over the song. Now, at that height of the storm, the mad farmer starts singing. Oh, law and earth and water and wind, and sunlight and shadow, and law and hands deep in the soil, and work and love. And the greatest of these is work, and love and hands, and law, the immaculate equation, know-how and concern. Until that silo spins with the mad farmer's song, until the storm with its thunder and lightning joins in, law and crack and rumble. And knowing these, and the fathers and mothers and children of these, by the mad farmer, hat dripping in his hand, invents a final verse, releasing each word with its attendant note, whole as faith, into the space that waits to be more than itself. When the storm relents, the sun does its own savage work, and harvest, behold, is in. So we can learn about what happens at harvest time, right? About farmers at the end of the season like we are here. When we listen to it in a poetic form, how does that change what we learn about it?
But how you understand it is a lot different than the actual way they're doing.
Thank you. So she was talking about seeing things. I know it's probably hard to get at the mask. I'm going to try and repeat what she said. She was talking about seeing things from a different perspective and seeing what's focused on what helps you understand it from a slightly different perspective. So talking about seeing the work of the farmer. I know when I go to farmers markets, I appreciate the work of the farmers, but do I really appreciate it in the way that I could after that poem? I don't know. So I think sometimes the arts really help us develop these deeper understandings in how we communicate things. I would say that was communication. Okay.
Does it bring in emotion?
Yes, it brings in emotion. Exactly. It lets us have this creative, emotive expression. It lets us feel a little bit differently, right? Until we get emotionally invested, are we really going to do anything about this planet we care about?
No.
We have to care and we have to love. Okay. So I'm going to move on to an activity for everybody to get started on because we're going to need a little time. And I got to think about how I'm going to set this up. So, I made this the other day as my sample. You do not have to use my example. What I did was I took a fallen maple leaf from my backyard and I used this brush and this screen printing ink, which I put very lightly on here. I brushed the leaf, and first I did this print, okay? And then I took it off and I shook it a little bit, and then I did this one, and this one, and this one. And then finally I pressed it down, and I used what was left on the brush to come out the other side. So let me tell you what this makes me think of. And the reason why I did it in this way. We're looking at data regarding this coronavirus pandemic from so many perspectives right now. We're seeing things analyzed in a million different ways. And I remember taking statistics in college and learning that if you analyze a data set too many times, you lose statistical power. When we think about things too many different ways and we look at them from different perspectives, sometimes that gives us too much information. And this makes me think about this very same leaf. We saw a different part each time. Each time I pressed it down, it looked just a little bit different. And then finally at the end, to get the full picture of the outline, I needed to sort of look at it from the backside and have some perspective there. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take a walk around. There's a bunch of fallen leaves over there, but you can kind of come wherever you like, and I'm going to set up some stations over here, and you can go ahead and make a printing yourself. So take the next few minutes to collect some leaves, and we'll get started. Sheets here. You're all welcome to get started. And then just print it down.
Over deer poop.
There we go, we got deer poop.
We got foxes over there. We got a pellet over there.
I do feel like that's the story of my life.
Messy.
My house.
Nice.
The best kind of art is messy.
So yes, there's no rules, there's no anything other than the lighter a touch you take with the ink pad.
Oh my god, the size bothers me. Like, it's just, I feel like it's only around my head.
No, I keep
Because they're
seeing
so
them.
small that I just don't even get it. It's horrifying. I hate them so much.
They're just like sprayed and like.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah!
Where do we put waste?
Is everybody okay with me taking some photos?
Oh, this is gonna be so cute.
Well, the red ones unfortunately.
Go for it. Yeah. So what I did for mine, I painted the veiny side and I did a stamp.
Yeah.
And then I did a few stamps and then I did
mean, it's
the
the stuff they use for Prince t-shirts.
when I
Oh, never mind.
that works. You do what works for you. All right. Love it.
I mean, you could totally do this with something else, but screen printing stuff is like what you usually like print up with t-shirts with, like clothing and bags and stuff.
So yeah, I should say I use the screen printing ink because I've done some work with a screen printer before, but also because it sticks onto the paper really nicely and it sticks onto the leaves when they're a little delicate nicely.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
But people have also seem to.
I know, I want to do like these little ones.
You can make a profit off of Etsy.
Well, what's really fun, I mean, it's expensive in terms of like doing it, but what's it called? Cyano, like photo paper, where you like just lay the leaf on top and shine the light.
That's a lot of fun to do with kids too.
You can be really cheap with it if you have the time.
Yeah, and you can be environmentally friendly, save money, and then still sell it as eco-friendly.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because the sun bleaching, yeah.
Leave it to dry somewhere. Yeah, I think we should probably just leave them. That's a perfect spot. Yes, thank you.
Do you want to come on in and use the space here?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And guys, feel free to do multiple. We've got a little bit of time before we're going to move on to the next piece. So.
Anybody want to come over here? There's room here. Anybody need space?
Yeah, I can also scoot.
Trying to keep one hand clean.
Nope. I'm
a fan of negative.
I think we'll do that with try to do it.
yeah.
That was before I put the gloves on, so I think
I felt this need
Tell
to
me.
create constantly. I was one of those sourdough bread people. Yeah. Who I had jars and jars and jars of cultures on my counter. And started a worm bin. I started a worm bin. A worm bin.
Like for compost?
Oh. It's like how does that sounds fun.
Yeah, like preparing.
Well, it's fine. We have the like proof of our art like on our leaves.
Yeah, I'll do as many as you like. We have a few more. We have plenty of time.
I think I need to come in. I'm just going to make this one. Sorry.
I kind of like mine more now. Oh my god, a bug landed in the paint! Oh, there's a bug in the paint.
You had a collaborator.
Oh, the bug crawled out and is leaving little footprints. Poor guy.
I'm going to make mine look cool now.
I'm gonna find a plan.
Definitely not.
I'm following. My other ID didn't work. No, is that the non-painty side? It has a whole different effect and like more of it.
Worst things ever. I am really. Want to keep paper bags, but we can trash the other or this.
I think I'm making a pile right now. These guys, the brushes go in here.
Dry, do you think?
It'll be dry enough so that it's not gonna like destroy anything in an hour or two.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna line stuff up against this wood here in the back, and we'll even bring the brown paper stuff underneath there. Does anybody have a piece of art they created that they'd like to share with the group right now? And maybe
it's all over there right now.
Okay. You had such good creative work. Can you point me to yours and maybe I can hold it up for you?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, these are so beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna grab just the one for now. Okay.
That would have been faster.
Yeah, that's already. Alexandra?
Yeah.
Yes. So, Alexandra, you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Oh, so I did one with oak leaves and one with maple leaves. I was telling Katya that I like the two because they're easy to teach people because they look so different from each other. And so it's like my little way of starting, like, to get rid of plant blindness, I guess. And so I did one of each.
Okay, so what I really like what you said about that, you gave me a couple important things. You talked about plant blindness. Is plant blindness an important thing that we as environmental educators need to think about? Yes. You talked about something that's important, that maple leaves and oak leaves are easy to distinguish, and there's something everybody can learn. This is a place where you can meet people where they're at and build from there. What about this activity helped you to think about the shape and other characteristics of the oak leaves?
I mean, I'm pretty sure the smaller leaf at the top corner is a pin oak, and I have one growing in my front yard, so like that's one of my favorite trees. And so I like saw one and I picked it up and I was like, yes, this one. And yeah, I don't.
So everybody is talking. I'm hearing the term smizing lately, smiling with your eyes, right? Did you guys see her smize when she talked about that tree?
Yes.
Did you see how she had that personal connection when thinking about that and what this reminded her of? When we engage in these kinds of things, we have a chance to think pretty deeply and make personal connections along with these scientific and artistic connections. I'm going to put this back and we're going to move on to one thing real quick. And one of my favorite things about what she does is she maintains a quote wall whenever she's teaching. Now, her claim to fame is when she was a high school English teacher. Her brother was the fire marshal in her town. And he had to cite her every school year because she had so many things going around her classroom that it was a fire hazard at all times. But I tried to listen carefully to the kinds of things people were saying, and here are some of the comments we had. Wow, I like that negative space. It is good to try different things. I tried something new. Try the other side. I tried the inverse. I like the oak and maple leaves because the shapes are the easiest to distinguish. I like projects like this because you don't need any artistic ability to do it. I want to do fish printing. If you use the non-veiny side of the leaf, there is a different effect. I'm glad I used gloves. My next one will be different. So these are just some of the things I heard today. What can I, as an educator, take from what I just heard today?
Definitely want to do it again.
Ideas for next time.
Ideas for next time, yeah? Anyone else?
Even if it was tough, you still find some sort of fun, positive spin on what was happening.
You find some way to do that, right? A lot of times we'll hear a teacher or an educator say, well, I can't draw, but, and they go to the board and they draw some kind of diagram. What do the 10-year-olds in the room say after that?
That's so good.
I can't draw, but we learn to internalize these things and say negative things about ourselves and our abilities, even though that's not necessarily true. So trying to find these opportunities to engage people in different ways. Fish printing is a thing. Do you know about that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's my favorite.
I'm sorry. It's my brother is the Peconic Bay keeper on Long Island, and they have there's a fish printer artist who prints on silk, and she sells women's dresses.
Oh my god.
That's where you're going. You have their card.
I don't, but I can get it by the end of the conference. But yeah, so there's all kinds of ways to think about things. I really like this too because I'm not a person who's known for my artistic ability. I'm not great at drawing, I'm not great at painting and things like that. But I can still see the actual shape of different things with this process. And yeah, I got my hands a little bit messy, but I like being outside and I like getting my hands a little bit messy, so I'm okay with that. But there's options too with the gloves and everything else. So I hope you feel like you got a chance to learn a little bit more about the leaves. Somebody said something about flipping the leaf from one side to the other.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that?
So when I was doing it on the veiny side, I was just getting little blobs that didn't look like a leaf, but then when I flipped it over, like I had been brushing, so it just was like the leaf, the veiny shape of the leaf wasn't there, but the actual, the veiny part, the skeleton of the leaf was not there, but the shape of the leaf was there when I flipped it over. So it gave me I like the other side better from flipping the leaf.
Now, are both important for when you're talking to children or talking to any adult visitors? Yeah, there's lots of different, it's not just one piece. There's lots of pieces that go into these kinds of things. And when we think about these different perspectives and different strategies, we're able to kind of build this wheelhouse of ideas, and we're able to get to those 4 C's, right? Did we learn some content today, or did we think of ways maybe to teach some content today? Were we communicating with each other?
Yeah.
A whole lot, right? Were we building a little bit of a community around doing the same activity and talking about that activity? Were we able to be a little creative and have some of that emotional connection? Yeah, so this was a way to engage in some arts-based environmental ed that allowed us to kind of wrap ourselves back in. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is get into a different medium. I want everybody to have a chance to listen to this next piece. And we're going to hope and pray that my tech is working and everything goes all right.
I was in a class with Professor Scott St. George in the geography department, and at one point he posted a slide advertising for interns in his dendrochronology lab, and I was lucky enough to get that job. He came to me with a set of data with the task of turning it into a piece of music, and we wound up with a song of our warming planet. In the piece of music, each note will correspond to a year, and then the pitch of that note will represent the temperature of that year. So these really high pitches denote a warmer year, and the lower pitches a cooler year. Data comes from the Goddard Institute for Space Studies at NASA. It's a compilation of global annual surface air temperatures. Climate scientists have a standard toolbox to communicate their data. What we're trying to do is we're trying to add another tool to that toolbox, another way to communicate these ideas to the people who might get more out of this than out of maps, graphs, and numbers. Climate change is a defining issue of our generation, and it's still something that a lot of people don't fully understand. And what we're trying to do is to represent the music, sort of the immediacy and the importance that this issue has right now. And if we act on that, then maybe it won't be as much of an issue for the future.
this point in this piece, they have kind of the piano going on in the background to show some of the change in time. But the sounds that are being played are past what human ears can hear. So they took 155 years of climate data and they translated it into musical notes for the various different string instruments. In that 3-minute period, we get to the point where humans can't even hear it. How does that tell you a little bit about climate data in a different way than just looking at a graph? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it kind of speaks to your emotions a little more. When you listen to music, you can feel something from it.
It's more like experiencing it than just observing it.
Yeah, because those graphs look like graphs, right? We see graphs all the time in all different places. When we hear it, it feels a little bit different. When you hear how long it takes and how steady it is for a while in the beginning, right? Like the notes sound similar for a long time. And then when they get up high, they're all over the place. So when we say global weirding along with global warming, right? They're all over the place. And then they get so high we can't even hear them. I think it's important that when we're sharing these kinds of pieces of numerical information with students, we think about different ways to show it. And music is a really great tool for doing that. There's obviously a long tradition of protest songs and songs that share messages that are pro-environmental in a lot of different ways, but physically representing data with music is also an important place we can think about that. I hope everybody had fun and had a chance to do some art making. One thing I always like to share, my mom was a high school math teacher for 40 years. And her students that she started seeing in high school, about 5 years post No Child Left Behind, really suffered when it came to geometry. And she realized what happened. In elementary school, when I was in elementary school, and when many people older than me were in elementary school, we spent a whole lot of time cutting out shapes. We cut out triangles and squares and circles all the time. We knew shapes well inside and out because our fingers did those movements. When high stakes testing became the culture of schools, one of the first things to go was the arts and crafts type things that happened in the classroom. And cutting out those triangles was not a useless activity. Cutting out those triangles took what we learned about shapes and helped us internalize them inside our bodies. So that by the time we were 15 or 16, we were ready to learn about what they meant mathematically. So I think when we make time for art and we make time for children manipulating things with their hands, we're helping them to have time to make sense of what we do in our classrooms, and that's not wasted time, and it's not silly things. And for my informal education friends who have been so dedicated to physically making children do things with their hands, this shouldn't be all on you. We should all have a chance to make sure that we're reinforcing this across the board. All right, I'm going to end with another poem about harvest time because I think this is a nice way to wrap up an art space type thing before we get a chance to check out the exhibitors. So this is Rupi Kaur. I firmly love everything she does. This is the recipe for life, said my mother, as she held me in my arms and I wept. Think of those flowers you plant in the garden each year. They will teach you that people too must wilt, fall, root, rise in order to bloom. So as we watch things start to wilt and fall and nourish our earth, I hope I gave you a few ideas and a few thoughts about what we're doing. I will leave these guys up here to dry. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and your attention. I really enjoyed, this is the first time I've taught in person in a long time, and it's been really nice, and I'm probably a little rusty. But thank you so much. Please visit the exhibitors. Thank you. Take care, everybody.